It was a crushing realization. Now Aron's only hope, that someone would realize he was missing and by some miracle figure out where he was and find him. It was now 9 a.m. Tuesday morning, and back in Aspen, Colorado, Aron Ralston was officially late for work.
Down deep in my stomach, I knew something was seriously wrong.
Brian After, manager of the Ute Mountaineering store, immediately feared that Aron might be in trouble. But knowing what a skilled outdoorsman Ralston was, he decided to give him a day before sounding the alarm.
Someone of his physical abilities, if they're 50 miles in the middle of nowhere and break their leg, he's probably going to be able to crawl out in a day or do whatever it is that he needs to do.
But nothing was further from the truth. Back in Blue John Canyon, Ralston had already run out of water. Now at 4 p.m., he took his last bite of food.
From that point, all I had was 2 bottles of urine. It certainly wasn't a pleasant part of the experience, but it helped me survive.
Ralston knew that he was playing a waiting game. He wondered what would kill him first: dehydration, hypothermia, or even the infection that was surely setting in his arm. Would he be able to stave off death until he was rescued? Ralston calculated that even if he was reported missing, it would be days before rescuers started to look for him, and days more before they found him.
My confidence in me lasting that long was very low. On Sunday, I said that I'd be surprised if I made it to Tuesday morning. And on Tuesday morning, I said I'd be surprised if I made it until Wednesday at noon.
And the critical error that he'd made in not telling anyone where he was headed that weekend continued to haunt him. That was a big shortcoming on your part.
It was possibly the largest, most significant mistake that I've made.
First rule, got to let people know where you're going when you're going into the wilderness, so if something happens, they'll know where to look.
Precisely. It was an impromptu decision about where I was headed and what I was going to do.
Later, Ralston would also face criticism for not having a cell phone with him. But he says, given his location, literally underground, getting a cell phone signal would have been impossible.
I would challenge any of the people who would say that that technology could have made a difference in my situation to take it there and to make it work, because it wouldn't.
As the days passed, Ralston questioned if anything could save him. His thoughts often turned dark, his mind playing out other horrific scenarios. One of the greatest dangers for canyoneers, a flash flood. Even a moderate rainfall could trigger a torrent of water that would send rocks, trees, and debris rushing through the canyon.
I was almost wishing for it to come. One sense that maybe I could get a little bit of water.
And Ralston had an even darker thought. Why wait for nature? Why not just finish the job himself?
If I had a way to end it, I probably would. It's miserable. It's cold. I can't keep the wind off of me. It just blows. It's not even a stiff breeze, but it's cold. I'm doing what I can, but this sucks. The worst ways to go, knowing it's going to happen.
As he readied himself for his 4th night in the canyon, Aron Ralston prayed that he'd still be alive when the sun rose.
Were the nights the worst?
Definitely. From a psychological perspective, as far as just the lack of light and what it does to our psyche.
The nights ever get any shorter?
No, they got longer, the way that they felt. They got colder. My body just had a diminished ability to respond to the cold and to the resources as my calorie reserves were being used up.
His body was breaking down. Unbelievably, he'd gone some 90 hours without sleep and only a few bites of food, and now a full day without water. He couldn't survive many more. Aron Ralston was slowly dying, and he knew it.
So I didn't want to sign off without saying I love you to Grandma and Grandpa. All my relatives back in Ohio. God bless you all.
As the Raven made its daily morning pass over Blue John Canyon, in Aspen, the Ute Mountaineering Store opened for business. And for the second day in a row, Aron Ralston didn't show up for work.
I pretty much made up my mind that if I didn't hear from Aron by 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning, that something was seriously wrong.
As 9 a.m. came and went, Brian After's fears were confirmed.
And I was like, all right, he's not here. I'm going to go and try to figure out where he is and start contacting people.
He talked to Aron's roommates, who were now also concerned, but they had no information either. Brian searched his locker at the store looking for names, numbers, anyone he could contact who might know where Aron was. He sent out emails to everyone he could think of, asking for any information, when Aron was last seen, and he called Aron's parents in Denver. Donna Ralston was working in her home office.
I answered the home phone line, and Brian told me who it was and asked me if I knew about Aron or where he was, and I said, no, I have no idea. Isn't he at work? And he said, no, he's overdue, didn't show up yesterday, and didn't show up this morning. And I said, Brian, you understand what that means? And he said, yeah, I fear.
I said, I think I know as well as you do. It's very serious.
That means he's in deep trouble, that something is really, really wrong.
Donna immediately took charge, laying out a plan of action. Brian would place a missing persons report with the Aspen police. She'd work the telephones. Aron's father, Larry, a tour guide, was in New York leading a group, and for the moment, he was unreachable. Donna recruited a friend to help.
We decided that if I could break into his computer and get to his email address book, that there might be a clue that he had told somebody or written an email to someone telling where he was going or what his plans for the weekend were.
She tried to hack into his email account for hours, finally realizing she knew enough personal information about Aron to answer the security questions required to reset his password. She was in. She used his online address book to send out another wave of emails asking for help. By that afternoon, she and Brian learned the last time Aron had been spotted was the day that he left Aspen, just outside of town, where he had climbed Mount Sopris with a friend.
That friend left him along the road when he was taking pictures and, said goodbye, and he left, and that was the last time Aron had been seen.
It was a clue, but a chilling one. That had been 6 days ago. Were they already too late? Suggestions and tips were now pouring in from concerned friends.
Call the Parks Department, call the Bureau of Land Management, call the Sheriff's Departments, call the rescue squads.
Public Safety Dispatch, this is Georgia.
Hi, my name is Donna Ralston, and I'm calling because my son has been reported missing since last Thursday night.
Every time I called somebody, I would ask, who else can I call? Where else can I get information? Who else can I get help from? And so the day went on progressively with no responses, no indication of where he might have gone, which direction he went, what he was doing, or what might have happened. It was a very long and trying day.
You know, I just feel that something very, very seriously has gone wrong.
Donna had called authorities throughout Colorado and Utah, but there was little that they could do because they had no idea where Aron had gone or how long he'd actually been missing. By late afternoon, Donna was finally able to speak to her husband Larry in New York.
Did you feel great alarm when you first heard that he was missing?
Very concerned. The initial reaction of other people, I think, is that perhaps he was lost. And that never crossed our mind, that he was lost. There was something keeping him from coming back.
You know, he is too experienced to be lost. He is not lost. He's hurt. Something's wrong.
Finally, a break. A friend emailed Ralston's manager that Aron had mentioned wanting to visit some canyons in Utah. Donna stepped up her calls to authorities in that area.
They sent patrols out to check trailheads and to check hospitals and to look for broken down vehicle along the roadside and whatever. By 8, 9 o'clock that evening, still we knew nothing.
Were you talking to Aron? Were you saying, where are you, Aron?
Yeah. Out loud sometimes. You know, why did you do this? Why weren't you more careful? Where are you, Aron? You know, why are you doing this to us?
Back in Blue John Canyon, Aron was slowly losing ground in his fight to hold on.
Think about your family?
Most definitely. Thinking about my sister's wedding that was coming up at the end of August that I was going to miss, and not only miss, but put a whole somber overtone to it, that there would probably be a funeral before, you know, my sister got married. And I felt bad for what I was doing emotionally to my parents. It was hard. I felt guilty about it.
His only comfort, that he had been able to tell them all this.
Mom and Dad, I really love you guys. I wanted to take this chance to say that the times that we've spent together have been awesome. I love you. I'll always be with you.
It was his 5th night in Blue John Canyon, and Ralston knew it would be his last.
It was a very dark time for me. I had very little confidence that I was going to get myself out, basically because I couldn't. It came down to whether I could cut through my arm or not, and I couldn't do it. I didn't have a knife sharp enough to cut through bones.
As night fell on Blue John, it was utterly dark and deadly quiet. Ralston had now been without water for almost 2 days. He'd lost almost 45 pounds and was near hypothermia. He had many sleep-deprived hallucinations, many of them dark, but some offered hope.
I had the vision of this little 3-year-old boy with blonde hair and a red shirt running across the floor of the living room into my arms and picking him up and realizing it was my son and that this was a vision of something in my future.
But even that glimpse of what might be was no longer enough.
I thought I was going to die.
The conditioned athlete who had entered the canyon 5 days before was a shadow of what he had been. Ralston had faced down death, cheating it before, but now his steel will was beginning to grind down.
Emotionally, the darkest time, I think, was that Wednesday night, and that was when I etched on the wall here.
When we returned to the canyon, it was that etching on the wall that caused him to break down. A vivid reminder of the moment when all hope was lost.
I'd taken the knife, and I'd etched into the wall the 4 letters of my name. A-R-O-N, right there. Just to identify who this body was that was here. And I etched October 75 above my name. And I etched April 03 below my name. And I wrote R.I.P. right there.
Ralston had carved his own epitaph, his gravestone, Blue John's majestic walls. He'd recorded his last message to his family asking to be cremated and instructing them where to spread his ashes. He prayed to God and found peace. He was ready to accept death.
Again, love to everyone. Bring love and peace and happiness and beautiful lives into the world. My honor. Thank you. Love you.
Aron Ralston had not expected to live to see the sunrise over Blue John Canyon on Thursday morning. His 6th day since being trapped. He was convinced he wouldn't make it to day 7. He needed a miracle.
I'd prayed about seeking guidance of what I was supposed to do and to finding an option that was going to actually work to get me out of there.
Aron waited for the Raven to pass overhead on its daily morning flight. It was the one thing that he could count on.
It kind of became my morning ritual to watch for it and to see it go.
But that morning, the Raven, that symbol of death, never appeared. And Aron Ralston's prayers were about to be answered. Back in Denver, Donna Ralston had spent an anguished, sleepless night.
Could you ever put in words, as a mother, what it's like to be going through this ordeal?
It was horrible. Someone asked me later if I ever had any doubts that he was alive, and no. Somehow I knew that if he had an ounce of energy anywhere in his being, that he would get himself out or that he would free himself from wherever he was.